Hello, good to see you, my little necro babies. Today's episode will be one for the history books. I hope you're ready. Last episode, we had conquered the city of Nuln away from the chaotic forces in the name of the Emperor and in the name of Reichland. As odd as it may seem, though, today, to begin, we are actually going to be doing a little bit of training with some different types of weapons, as well as getting our renown up a bit and spreading the good word of the necromancer mommy. And the best way to do that is by going into a few tournaments and bashing in a few heads. Now, not only are we gaining more fame and renown, as previously mentioned, making people more willing and also eager to join our war bands and armies to fight alongside us in the upcoming wars that are no doubt just around the corner, but because we are currently at peace with most other nations and factions, we have to try to hone our skills and keep them sharp. And we had a hell of a lot of fun doing it too. Covered in another man's blood, gaining fame and fortune. Now that's just my game. However, not only would we be earning fame and fortune, but we would also be earning useful skills to use during battle. For example, we have next to nothing in terms of experience with firearms, although these are a common weapon. And without any vampiric lords or their forces to fire at, the arena was the only place we could get this crucial experience. Besides, the musketmen under my command are unlike the undead. Their respect and loyalty cannot just be given to me by raising them from their graves. It must be earned, and by God Almighty, we will earn it. Though increasing my knowledge of this weaponry type is a bit tedious, and after quite a bit of work and training with firearms, I managed to only get my skill up just a little bit, though it is better than nothing. Slowly but surely, though, we will continue educating ourselves on these weapons. In the meantime, we are continuing to run around fighting bandits and beastmen alike, and during this time, we would actually manage to finally recruit some of the Chaos Knights and Warriors who we had previously taken prisoner during our skirmishes with the Chaos Lords. These very intimidating warriors towered above our undead soldiers. And honestly, I can't stress enough just how absolutely crucial their assistance during these battles are going to be. With them by our side and under our command, the odds are ever in our favor. With every deserter, hideout, and beastman warband that we would take down, we would also collect a vast fortune, and also a vast fortune of items like armor and weapons that we would give to our companions as well. The vampiric lords and their massive warbands constantly mocking us with their presence. I can't wait until we're at war with them once more, but until that time, I suppose that the scum of the earth like the Chaos Fighters and Cultists will have to do to satiate our bloodlust. After some time of training a bit more, I would finally be able to wield my very own flintlock pistol, an Imperial flintlock pistol, made by the finest crafters, I'm sure. Now you might be asking yourself, Rat Daddy, why do you keep on harping about using firearms? I thought that this was some type of magical necromancer playthrough. Well, it is, and that's the exact reason that I want to use these firearms. Allow me to explain by using a meme. As you can see, when you're all out of spells, you may not quite be out of shells, and indeed, when we run out of mana to continue using our ranged attacks, this pistol will come in very handy. Now that we've finally gotten our skills up a bit and have some more experience with these types of weapons, and we've also finally recruited those that needed recruiting, and we've equipped our companions with proper weapon and armor, it's time for us to start growing our undead hordes again. During our travels, though, we would actually come upon the barren hills, and not only would we have endless hordes of the undead, but in this sacred place we would be able to tap into the congealed essence of dark magic and bind wraiths to our will. Dark spirits were not only forcing the corpses of their ancestors to fight now, but their very souls and essence as well. We would also be able to embolden and empower our current undead hordes. Ironically, just after this, a dark moon would begin to arise in the sky. Its sickly glow and presence would empower and embolden its worshippers. The chaos portals have been reopened. It won't be long now before we're fighting massive armies of chaotic cultists and warriors, and hopefully even the vampiric lords. I must say I'm not all that worried about it, as we currently command a pretty large army, although we still have a long ways to go if we plan on manning and spearheading this war again. Not only in terms of gaining more and more soldiers, of course, but also in our own magical abilities. These hallowed halls always make me feel like I'm right at home. The magic, the spells, the decor on the walls, and the strange little mage man who is eyeing me like a piece of meat. This is a little bit weird. Perhaps you could teach me some spells instead, you silly little man. In particular, the Aura of Resistance. This new magical ability within a certain radius will grant some of our soldiers up to 20% resistance. Exactly what we need. Especially given the fact that our old enemies, the blood dragons, are at it again. They and the forces of chaos, it would seem. This is going to be fun. Unfortunately, our travels and mission to regain our massive army has led us quite far away from where the blood dragons currently are and away from Reichland. So we would have to make the very long journey all the way back. As we entered into the lands and territory of the blood dragons, though, I began to think that perhaps there are some people in these lands who might be willing to join our cause. Surely there's some folks around here who don't like their government. And indeed, some of these vampires were actually willing to take up arms against the Order. Their resistance to their overlords would be crucial for helping us amass an uprising in these lands. Finally, we meet again, my old foes. And this time, I don't plan on losing. For today, on the outskirts of this dark forest village, we shall shed vampire blood. With the combined might of our own forces, along with the militias rising against Lord Harkin, we shall defeat his generals here today, and I will claim the pretty little prize of that pale vampire head. And so it would begin. We would wait for our enemies to begin crossing the bridges and the pond here to attack us, as we hurled multiple volleys of magical bombs, musket balls, and arrows at them. As quick as lightning, a large clash would begin happening at the bridge. Our undead warriors fighting their undead warriors, our chaos knights butting heads with their blood knights. A sight full of carnage and beauty. You know I wasn't going to miss out on all the fun, though. Using my pistol as well as my large scythe, I would get down and dirty, ripping the skeletons' heads off. I would also end up using my brand new ability to strengthen many of our own undead hordes, giving them the upper hand. And after using this ability, of course, I had very little magical points left to use anymore, so this is exactly when my new pistol and my new firearm skill set would come in clutch. But as I began to run low on musket balls, I also felt the need to start lapping off heads with my scythe once more. This fight was an absolute bloodbath, and as the vampires' reinforcements finally started coming into the field to help them out, our musketmen and bowmen were making quick work of them. Gigantic volleys of projectiles blackening out what little bit of moonlight was creeping in through the trees. And just like that, in an instant, it was over, and we were victorious. The filthy crimson bloodsuckers and their minions finally crushed beneath our boots, as it were, and as it should be. As I'm sure you can imagine, we would end up taking the vampiric generals as our prisoners. Now, initially I thought about cutting off their heads, but since we are continuing to grow our military, it might be good if we ransom them and use that money to arm our troops as well as our companions. Speaking of which, we would also take many a blood knight as well as other vampiric soldier as our prisoner, and they would also fetch a very pretty every penny, though we would try to recruit as many as possible before doing so. I was a bit surprised, though I suppose I shouldn't have been, but the vampires' gear was much better than our own in most cases, like their swords and armor, of course. Even a lot of their weapons were better than our own, so I would end up equipping some of those along with a shield for myself. The armor and other equipment like that was much better for our companions like Lutolf here, who would end up getting a brand new set of vampire general armor, as would Eckel the Golden Wizard with some Blood Knight pauldrons and some proper weapons like a great axe and a shield, which was much better than his staff, which he's been using this whole time. Immediately after defeating the generals, I would begin heading back over the mountains into friendly territory to ransom off the prisoners as previously mentioned. For now, we are only going to be ransoming the generals, as all of their soldiers that we currently have are pretty useful to us. Of course, it will take a very long time before they're willing to join up with us, so our party is going to be extremely slow. Damn lazy blood knights and other fools weighing us down all day during our journey. Oh well. At the very least, while we were waiting on them to join us, we could go ahead and upgrade our current warriors, the undead and alike of course, with our wraiths. They would quickly become hex wraiths riding around on spirit horses. Pretty badass if I say so myself. We would also upgrade the gear and whatnot of the militiamen who were with us during the uprising against the Blood Knights, giving them much more fitting attire as well, and weapons. Realistically, an absolutely massive jump in attire. They went from fur coats to full plated armor. With our new riches, I would end up buying myself a new great helm that somewhat went with my current armor set. Looks aside though, it would protect my face and my noggin much better than my headband. In my journeys, I would eventually come to a city hidden in the trees, the feast halls of Wardance, a wood elf city. They too were none too fond of the Blood Knights and had many a mercenary to spare, for the right penny of course. Luckily for me, I just so happen to have a vast fortune of winnings at my disposal to hire as many as they could provide. And not to mention that this city, just like all cities, had a graveyard ripe for the pickings. But these elves had a problem with beastmen terrorizing their cities and villages, just like all the realms seem to have around these parts, so we would help them out a little bit by going through and cleansing these pests. Of course though, this wasn't exactly just out of the good of our hearts, as I'm sure you well know and remember. I've mentioned it before, but after we defeat these war bands of enemies, we are able to raise many of their undead for our own army. With every single victory under our belt, our power and our strength grows exponentially so. One could almost feel sorry for these filthy beastmen if they weren't a bunch of dirty, no-good murderers. Consider this their judgment day, and you can consider me the judge, jury, and most importantly, the executioner. May my justice be swift as my sword. After slaughtering countless hordes of beastmen, expending absolute fortunes to hire elven mercenaries, and also digging up the remains of people's loved ones in their villages and cities, we have amassed an army of 1,200 or so strong once more. This would make it an absolute cakewalk to take on the vampiric generals whenever we encountered them, and by encountered them, I mean whenever we forced them into a corner of mountains where they couldn't escape their fate. For all who opposed the goth mommy necromancer known as Lilith, all have the same fate in the end.
Cut them down!
This icy, cold, frigid winter is surely to be one for the ages. Someday they'll be singing tales in the taverns about how the giant masses of undead and vampires fell to their knees at my scythe, and generals shall study my advanced predatory battle tactic for years to come. Oh, don't look so down, little fella. You're about to make me even more money. Unfortunately, Unfortunately though, as the war was just beginning to get interesting, the Blood Dragons and Reichland would make peace. Almost definitely due to the fact that I have single-handedly wiped out over half of their armies. It would seem that my duties as a mercenary have made me a little bit too good at my job. I'm afraid that the Empire does not speak for me, and if they are too cowardice to continue this war against the vampires, it looks like I'll have to take matters into my own hands. The Emperor is nothing more than a weak fool, and does nothing but impede our progress against the Blood Dragons around every single corner. But no more. We will be our own nation now. We immediately began heading back towards enemy territory, stopping in at many an elven city and town, as well as vampiric, taking up any militants who would help us. Our target was the hidden city of Talis and those who inhabit it and defend it, a crucial foothold in the middle of enemy territory. If we can manage to take this little village city here, hidden in the woods, we could disrupt their entire operation in these lands. However, as we were besieging the city, we had a bit of an issue. We were completely out of food, which is something that our living warriors would need to continue living, of course. So it looks like we're all out of time. It's time for us to lead an assault into the city itself. This battle and this city will be my magnum opus. There were no walls or gates, and thanks to our siege, there were no large-scale weapons that could be used against us. But do not be mistaken, for the defenders of this city were dangerous. We're fighting in their home turf, meaning they'll have the advantage.
Have at
Of course, things like that have never stopped us before. We ordered our army directly into combat with them. They were about to begin going across the bridge as I was firing at our enemies from across with my pistol. Unfortunately, this appeared to be the only way through, and we were being funneled right where they wanted us, so I would take it upon myself to rush up the road to see if there were any other entrances. And sure enough, there surely were. I had snuck in behind their defensive line and began picking off their archers and musketmen one by one. Using my sword, I would continue killing as many as humanly possible. With such a large group of them like this, it was like shooting fish in a barrel, as they say. There was nowhere that I could swing my crooked blade without hitting enemy flesh. It was perfect. But as the battle continued, and as one might imagine, I realized that me being the only one behind their defensive line was not going to cut it. I could kill as many as I wanted, but unless I had a little bit of help, we were never going to finish this fight. So I rushed back over across the river once more and began commanding my main footmen to follow me up the road and across our new little entrance here. And with their help, our enemies were completely surrounded after we finished killing as many as we could as the others were fleeing in fear. This battle had finally finished. The city of Talis was finally ours, a home of our own, our very own nation and our very own order. The Order of the Damned. To ensure its prompt and ample protection, we would end up donating the vast majority of our army to defend it, of course. Along with the city would come the small village of the Summer Tree, where we were, of course, also getting many of our vampiric militants who were uprising with us against the Blood Dragons. In the coming weeks and months, we would commission to have a fortification built in between the city and the small village, so that we could end up training many of these militants as well as elven mercenaries to help us continue defending this territory to ensure their sovereignty and freedom. And as for me, I was simply happy to be ruling over it all with my companions and with my people. It's been a very long and fun journey, my friends. But I think it's time that I put up my adventuring cape and put on my governing cap for a bit. These are my people now, and I have no qualms or interest in the Empire and Reichland and even the Blood Dragons as of right now. I simply wish to sit atop my throne and rule my very own little slice of heaven. Until next time, my friends, but remember, Mommy's always watching. Hello everyone, popping in here at the end of the video just to kind of confirm, in case it wasn't clear, and maybe it wasn't, of course, I don't think it was, but whatever. This is going to be the last video in our Necromancer series, the end goal here being that we would end up capturing our own town and founding our own little nation, which we have ended up doing. Of course, there's a few reasons behind this. I know a lot of people seem to be enjoying it, but in terms of the channel, it's not doing near as well as something like RimWorld, of course. So, unfortunately, I spend a lot of time, you know, with the mod, the Old Realms. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot to it. The battles are huge, and it takes forever, of course, to raise enough undead and hire enough troops and stuff like that. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that it takes a lot of time in between these episodes for this series, and it doesn't really seem like it's doing quite as well as, you know, I kind of need it to be for me to be putting this much time into it and this much effort. But it has been a lot of fun, and of course I want to give it a proper ending where we, at the very least, take over our own territory and become our own nation, yada yada, as we have today in this video. So I do hope you've enjoyed. If you're watching this in the future, I hope you've enjoyed the super cut of all the episodes back to back to back. I think I'm going to be leaving, or uploading those in July, maybe? Sometime around there, the super cuts, so you're probably watching that right now, or maybe not, maybe you're watching it in the past. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I did want to say that in the future, I might end up doing a Let's Play style, like VOD series, in the Old Realms on the secondary channel, Rat Knight Plays. You can always find that in the channel description and stuff like that. If that's something that you guys are interested in, I'll probably do that over there. But thank you guys ever so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.